Allez, demi-tour.
The story kicks off at CIA headquarters located in Langley, Virginia. Agent Vivi DeLay is in a meeting with the CIA director and another high-ranking official. Their discussion revolves around a top priority target named Wolfgang Braun, a notorious criminal better known by his alias, the Wolf. He's collaborating with his associate, referred to as the Albino, to traffic weapons to terrorist groups. Vivi is assigned the task of eliminating both men. She inquires whether there's already an operative on the ground. That agent is Ethan Renner. The scene shifts to a hotel in Paris, where Ethan is working alongside Agent Yasmin to intercept the Albino before he can seal a weapons deal with a Serbian buyer. Ethan successfully neutralizes the arms buyers and manages to swap a suitcase containing confidential codes with the Albino's own. He starts heading toward a truck where fellow agents await, ready to receive the documents, but his phone suddenly rings. It's a reminder that today is his daughter Zoe's birthday. Ethan rushes to a nearby payphone. Without any coins, he trades his wristwatch to a vendor in return for some change so he can make the call. He dials Zoe's number, but only reaches her voicemail. Meanwhile, back at the hotel, the Albino realizes Yasmin's true identity. He drags her into an elevator, and once the doors shut, he brutally kills her by severing her head. Outside, gunmen working with the Albino begin firing at the agents stationed in the truck, sparking a chaotic gunfight that spills from the hotel lobby into the street. Ethan quickly gets involved, taking out one of the attackers before pursuing the Albino. But as the chase continues, Ethan starts to weaken, his movements becoming sluggish. Just as he catches up to his target, he collapses, yet still manages to fire a shot, wounding the Albino in the leg. The Albino escapes with a limp, while Ethan loses consciousness. He later awakens in a hospital, where the doctor delivers devastating news: he has cancer, and it has already spread to his lungs. Ethan is told he has only 3 to 5 months left to live. Returning to his apartment, Ethan is startled to discover a strange family occupying the space. A man named Jules greets him cheerfully and explains that they're refugees who needed temporary shelter. Ethan initially plans to throw them out but is warned that doing so might land him in legal trouble. Although he pulls a gun on Jules in frustration, he ultimately has a change of heart and agrees to let them stay until Jules's eldest daughter gives birth. Ethan later phones his ex-wife Tina while she's out socializing. She's reluctant to see him at first, but when he mentions it's an emergency, she agrees to meet. The two come together to finalize some legal paperwork related to his will. Ethan confides in her about his illness, insisting he doesn't want Zoe to know the truth. All he wants, he says, is to spend time with his daughter. Tina consents, but only on the condition that he quits his job. Ethan promises to do so, and together they go to pick Zoe up from school. Their reunion is tense. Zoe doesn't seem thrilled to see her father. Soon after, a sharply dressed young man approaches and greets Zoe. She introduces him as Hugh. Though Hugh is courteous while meeting Ethan, there's an undeniable sense of discomfort in the air. After Hugh leaves, Ethan gifts Zoe a purple bicycle, believing it's still her favorite color. However, Zoe chooses to ride the subway with her friends instead, leaving Ethan to return home alone. On the way back, he makes a stop at a station and unexpectedly crosses paths with Vivi. She casually brings up Zoe and returns the wristwatch he had left at the hotel. Vivi then offers him a new assignment and invites him to work with her. Ethan initially refuses, but when Vivi reveals that she has access to an experimental drug that might cure his illness, he reconsiders. Moved by the possibility of extending his life, Ethan agrees to the mission, to track down and eliminate the Wolf. Vivi takes him to a hotel, where he's supposed to find someone with details about the Albino's accountant. She assures him there will be only one person in the room, but when Ethan bursts in, he finds not one, but 5 people inside. Since no one in the room was willing to cooperate, Ethan and Vivi ended up eliminating the entire group. While riding the elevator afterward, Ethan told Vivi he'd only continue the job if she paid him $50,000 and secured a $1 million life insurance policy for him. Vivi agreed and administered another dose of the experimental drug. Meanwhile, the Albino met with a shadowy figure and handed him a photograph of Ethan, instructing him to hold onto it. Ethan later arrived at Tina and Zoe's apartment and was alarmed by screams coming from inside. Fearing Zoe was in danger, he broke down the door and stormed in, only to discover she was upset over a disastrous haircut. Tina was furious, especially since Ethan had promised to cook dinner but showed up 3 hours late. She explained she had a business trip to London the next day and intended to hire a nanny. Ethan insisted on caring for Zoe himself. Shortly after, Ethan began to feel lightheaded and fainted. He called Vivi, describing his hallucinations. She instructed him to take a shot of vodka to stabilize the effects, which he reluctantly did the next morning. Tina left for her trip, and Zoe entered the room wearing a bright red wig. When Vivi called, Ethan told Zoe it was just his boss. Zoe set her ringtone for Ethan to the song I Don't Care by Icona Pop. Once again, Ethan tried to persuade her to ride the bike he got her to school, but she chose to walk instead, and dropped her wig along the way. Later, Ethan met with Vivi again. She handed him the promised check and reminded him to monitor his heart rate. She also assigned him a new target, a car dealer named Maitat. Ethan went to Maitat's dealership, insulted his staff, and knocked them unconscious. Then he waited in Maitat's office until the man arrived. Once he did, Ethan threatened his family and forced him to come along. But before they could leave, Zoe's school called. He needed to meet with the principal. With no other choice, Ethan shoved Maitat into the trunk and drove to the school. There, he and Zoe learned she had hit another student. Zoe explained the girl had been bullying a Pakistani classmate. Instead of being angry, Ethan praised her for standing up to a bully. Back in the car, Maitat began making noise from the trunk, forcing Ethan to knock him out again. Zoe, disgusted by Ethan's rough behavior and persistent coughing, walked away in frustration. Later, she called to apologize and invited him to meet at her favorite spot, a small amusement park with a flying chairs ride. Though Ethan had intended to keep hunting down the accountant, he chose instead to spend time with his daughter. After the ride, they sat together sipping hot chocolate. Zoe said she had to go meet her lab partner for a study session. After dropping her off, Ethan stopped by a store, only to be ambushed by an armed man who opened fire. Luckily, Ethan escaped uninjured, possibly due to wearing a bulletproof vest. A brutal fight broke out. The assailant stabbed Ethan in the neck, but Ethan managed to shoot and kill him. When he examined the attacker's body, he found a photo of himself, confirming he had been targeted. When Ethan got back to Zoe's place, he saw a message on her computer from a friend mentioning they'd meet at the tattoo gallery. Alarmed, Ethan rushed over. At the scene, he spotted a car with Zoe's bag inside. He broke into the vehicle and found a flyer advertising a place called Spider. Ethan went to Maitat's home and questioned his twin daughters about Spider. They explained it was a trendy party restaurant. He headed there and discovered it was a crowded, noisy nightclub. Inside, he spotted Zoe drinking with her friends. Suddenly dizzy again, he took a sip of vodka to calm himself, but he watched as three men began harassing Zoe near the restroom. One of their friends tried to intervene, but Ethan quickly overpowered all of them and got Zoe out safely. The next morning, Zoe woke up without any recollection of the night before. Still in the same dress, she got ready for school. Ethan gently told her not to dress that way again. When he urged her to ride the bike, she got upset and revealed he had never taught her. Feeling ashamed, Ethan spent the morning giving her bike lessons. People passing by applauded as they saw the two bonding. Later, Zoe broke down in tears, asking why he had disappeared for so many years. She confessed that she once believed he had a second family. Ethan assured her that wasn't the case. As they spent more time together, Zoe revealed the real reason she punched that girl at school. It was because she had been flirting with Hugh. Later, when they ran into Hugh, who had come to take Zoe to school, Ethan spotted the accountant, Guido, being escorted nearby. Seizing the opportunity, Ethan launched a tear gas grenade at the vehicle, captured Guido, and destroyed the truck to prevent pursuit. He brought Guido back to his apartment to exchange the briefcase for another, which contained activation codes for the explosives used by the wolf and the albino. Meanwhile, Zoe called and asked for help cooking a vegetarian dinner for Hugh. Ethan asked Guido to share his mother's secret pasta sauce recipe to assist her that evening. When Ethan returned home, he learned that Jules's daughter had gone into labor. She gave birth to a healthy baby girl and named her after Ethan as a gesture of gratitude. Jules said they would move out soon as promised, but Ethan told them they could stay as long as they liked. Still, Jules said the family preferred to relocate to a smaller house to live closer together. Ethan went back to Zoe's home and found out Hugh had invited her to a school dance. Nervous about not knowing how to dance, Zoe asked Ethan to teach her. They practiced together in the living room. Just then, Tina arrived and quietly watched, tears in her eyes. Later that evening, the three of them shared dinner like a proper family. After the meal, Tina gently told Ethan that he needed to tell Zoe the truth about his illness. That night, Ethan and Tina reconnected emotionally, taking a step toward mending their relationship. The following morning, Vivi called with urgent intel. The albino had been spotted at the Grand Hotel. Ethan rushed there and discovered the wolf was also present. They fled in a car driven by Maitat, prompting Ethan to give chase. He rammed their vehicle until it soared off an overpass. Though the wolf and the albino escaped, Ethan let Maitat go, allowing him to return to his family. Ethan pursued the criminals into a subway station, but was suddenly hit with a nosebleed and intense dizziness. Just as he aimed his weapon at the wolf, the albino seized him and began dragging him toward the train tracks. The wolf ordered the albino to kill him, but there was a moment of hesitation. As a train sped toward them, Ethan summoned his remaining strength and shoved the albino onto the tracks, killing him instantly. Ethan collapsed from exhaustion, and the wolf managed to flee. When Ethan regained consciousness, he found himself at Vivi's apartment. She reminded him of the incident incident, but also shared some good news. The treatment was beginning to show results. Later, Ethan, Zoe, and Tina met up with Hugh and his family. Everything was going smoothly until Hugh's father introduced his business associate, who turned out to be the wolf. Both men immediately recognized each other and exchanged a stiff, tense handshake. Hugh's parents invited everyone to an upscale, exclusive club. There, Tina picked up on Ethan's change in demeanor and realized he was in the middle of a mission. Feeling deceived, she confronted him, but Ethan assured her he wasn't hiding anything. Suddenly, one of the wolf's henchmen opened fire. Ethan sprang into action, pursued the shooter, eliminated the armed thugs, and eventually cornered the wolf in an elevator. Without hesitation, he shot the elevator cable, sending the wolf plunging downward in the lift. Meanwhile, in a private room, Hugh and Zoe enjoyed a quiet moment and shared their first kiss on the dance floor. Miraculously, the wolf survived the elevator crash and crawled out from the wreckage. Ethan tracked him down again, but was too weakened to fire his weapon. He dropped his gun as the wolf reached for it. Just then, Vivi appeared and slid the gun back toward Ethan, giving him another chance to end it. But as Ethan looked at the man before him, thoughts of Tina and Zoe overwhelmed him. He couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger and let the gun fall from his hand. Vivi, without hesitation, picked it up and executed the wolf herself. In the aftermath, Ethan settled into a peaceful life with Zoe in a cozy house near the ocean. He decorated a Christmas tree, something he had never imagined he'd live long enough to do. While speaking with Tina, he reflected on their struggles but acknowledged that they were both making an effort to keep the family together. Tina came over, and Ethan opened up, admitting that he hadn't always been the father or partner he should have been. Zoe soon appeared, smiling warmly, and invited her mother inside so Ethan could make them hot chocolate. He stepped into another room, giving them a moment alone. As Zoe sat beside her mom, she softly asked whether Ethan might want to stay with them for good. In the other room, Ethan found a box containing a large syringe and a handwritten note from Vivi that read, "Merry Christmas." She had left him one more dose of the life-saving medicine so he could continue living and remain with the people he loved. Outside, Vivi stood at a distance, watching them through the window, smiling.